1160. Jeff McClure is with us this. I got to apologize to you, Jeff, because it's crazy around here. We're running everywhere on a Friday morning, but it's good to be able to stop for a moment and talk about a very serious subject with you. The subject is breast cancer in males. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. We have heard when we have our breast cancer awareness spots through the month of October every year about breast cancer being possible in males. You actually experienced it. Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
It's good to have you here as this is a very serious topic. Tell me about your diagnosis with breast care. What brought it about? What made you suspect that there was something wrong?
Well, it started, I was diagnosed back in 2019, and I was in the kitchen preparing a meal, and I felt some wetness on my shirt. And I looked down and I saw a red spot, and I put my hand down there and looked, and there was blood on my hand.
Hmm.
And I couldn't figure out what that was and everything like that. And I just kind of ignored it, just thought maybe I scratched or something. And it did it again. And I really didn't think a whole lot. But I had a Shepherd Pit Bull Lab dog, and Brandy was her name, and she would always jump on me and scratch, and knead at my
Uh-huh.
left breast. And I thought, well, maybe she scratched me or something, and it was just bleeding from being scratched. And after she would knead, she would cross her paws and put her head down over top of my breast.
Hmm.
And I thought, well, she kept doing this every day, and I'm like, what's wrong with Brandy? Why is she doing that?
Brandy knew
And
there was something wrong with you.
I think so. I really do. I believe that they can smell that somehow or something.
Yeah.
So I kind of passed it off. Maybe it was just a scratch from her claws or something. And it progressively kept doing it every day, not all the time, but off and on. So I went to Med Express and they checked it out and they said, well, it was probably from the dog because, they could see maybe a little nick. So they put me on antibiotics.
Hmm.
And I was on antibiotics for 2 weeks, and after that 2 week period, it just kept doing it periodically and everything like that. And I wasn't, just of course being a guy, you just think, just pass it
It's
off.
not something you think of.
Right, you don't think of that. And so after a while, I finally talked to my primary care doctor, and they suggested I go see a surgeon. So I went to see Dr. Billamoria,
Hmm.
and they recommended a mammogram, so I went and got a mammogram and an ultrasound, and it showed nothing. There was nothing there to see, and they said, okay, we'll just see what happens. So they did it again, another mammogram, ultrasound, saw nothing. And as time passed, it kept doing it and everything, so they suggested a ductogram. So I went to see Dr. Simone. He did a ductogram, and as he was speeding the needle through, it stopped. And he said, whatever it is microscopic and is right there. And that's
Uh-huh.
why it was not being detected by the mammogram and the ultrasound.
It was that small.
It was that small. And they said basically I wasn't even a stage. That's how quickly it was caught and how small it was.
Yeah.
So I did go see Dr. Billamoria. She suggested surgery. She went in and did surgery on the duct, removed whatever was there, and came through that.
And there was no need for extensive aftercare in terms of chemo or anything of that nature afterwards.
No chemo. I did have 22 days of radiation,
Hmm.
and after that radiation stuff, and now I'm on a maintenance drug called exemestane, which is like tamoxifen,
Hmm.
and but I got 3 more years on that.
3 more years to go.
Yeah, 3 more years to go on that medication.
Uh-huh. And obviously you'll be going back for periodic checks
Right.
and
I
have
just
been.
had a mammogram not long ago, and everything came back fine.
Hmm.
But like she said, you are going to have these every year, just like ladies go in every year, so I'll be going in every year. But so far, everything looks good.
How big of a Christmas present did you get Brandy that year?
A very big Christmas present. However, Brandy is no longer with us. We moved and we had to give her up.
Hmm.
And that was the hardest thing we had to do because every time I think about what happened and think about what she did, and the part that she played in that is just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it really, really is. But it really does as well point out that it's not just a disease that afflicts women. It does affect men. And I'm sure that as you got this diagnosis and began research, I'm sure you looked into it and probably came up with some pretty startling facts.
Right, I did, and it is the truth that it's not as common in men as it is in women, but it's nothing that is unheard of.
Hmm.
And like I said, I would not have known. I would have just passed it off as being scratched by the dog
Hmm.
or something like that. But I mean, I would suggest to any guy out there, if you are having any problems at all, like I had discharge, which is not a normal symptom. Guys, like from what I was told from my doctors, guys normally don't have symptoms like that.
Yeah.
And I just got very lucky and happened to see that and had it checked out in time before it got bigger.
Now, how old are you?
I'm 54.
So you were in your early 50s when you got this
Right,
diagnosis.
right, back in 2019. So.
Okay. So that being the case, you are now set up for a series of mammograms and aftercare for a good long time. Did you have a family history of breast cancer?
Uh, Not really, not on my dad's side. On my mom's side, no. My sister had breast cancer,
Hmm.
and the thing was, she was DCIS breast cancer, which is the kind that does not normally spread.
Uh-huh.
And I actually had DCIS, which is basically unheard of in a guy being DCIS.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just having my sister having that, and Dr. Billamore said it's kind of crazy because you have the same thing your sister
It's it. You're a test case, aren't
had.
you?
I think so.
uh, when you have such a diagnosis, tell me about the emotion when you hear this, and it's something that was so far out of left field for you that you've never really considered that that could be something that you have. What did it do to you emotionally?
Well, going through it with my sister, I think I was more emotional when she had it, because I was more fearful for her.
Hmm.
But when I got it, I really wasn't afraid because I think of my faith in God. I just really wasn't afraid. I just kind of like, okay, here we go. Let's get through this. And we did, because I've had a series of other health issues where I almost died from a pulmonary embolism and I had kidney failure. So this was just another fork in the road. But, my doctors and everything, Dr. Billamoria, Dr. Ramanini, my oncologist, and everybody was just so great that just helped me get through all this. I mean, I don't think fear was really ever a factor
Yeah.
for me.
We talked to Dr. Billamoria in week one of our breast cancer awareness visits this month, and Dr. Ramanini just the other day. And Dina Deal is going to be visiting with us next week, the nurse navigator, and then Dr. Dan Clark. It's quite a team they have, isn't it?
Yes, they are really great people, and I would recommend them highly if anybody's having any kind of problem, not just breast cancer, but anything. They're
Hmm.
just a very, very classy group up there. The staff and everybody's so nice.
Now, what have they told you about the possibility of other cancers developing?
Well, they wanted me to get tested for stuff like that, to like have a test done. But I'm not the kind of person that borrows trouble. So
Hmm.
I figured if I don't know, then I'm not going to, because I worry a lot. So I
Yeah.
figured if it gives me something to worry about, I'll just worry about it all the time. So I don't, go into doing that. I just take things as they come along.
Hmm.
And but they did tell me, because I have three brothers, and they recommended that I tell them about this so they may get tested because this might be something that may be hereditary.
And
Or
you
something
did?
like that. I did tell them, however, they refused, and they said, "Well, nothing's going to happen." Well, I didn't think nothing was going to happen either.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everybody has to make their own choices in those
Right,
things, and thankfully, in your case, it was caught very early before it even reached the stage level.
right,
My
right.
goodness. So you move forward, and you mentioned your faith and how that has helped to sustain you through this. We talk about medical expertise. We talk about technology. That's a big part of the equation too, though, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The radiation, the whole thing that you go through and stuff like that, the medication that you take afterwards and stuff, and that medication, it's not having any kind of ill effects on me or nothing like that, and so.
So
But I mean, in the end, I mean, all medical technology is great, but God's the ultimate healer, and that's what I rely upon.
well, your story is a story that, as you say, a lot of guys should perk up their ears and pay attention to. And whatever the suspicion is, whether it's in your case breast cancer or something else that is beyond our understanding, there are people who are trained to help you in that case. And every once in a while, you come across a dog that'll help you in that too.
Yes, absolutely.
He is Jeff McClure. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing this story. It's a fascinating one.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
It's
And I hope, that this helps other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good to meet Jeff McClure. Good to hear this story. It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM. And